Are you looking for a bank or a credit union that is more concerned with being a social justice warrior than your everyday banking? Yeah, I didn't think so, but that's exactly what the Desjardins Group, a credit union largely based in Ontario and Quebec, is doing. Desjardins announced that they would be temporarily suspending their involvement in financing Canadian energy projects such as the Kinder Morgan pipeline expansion, with potential plans to make this decision a permanent one come September. Desjardins did so after a letter from dozens of far-left environmental activist groups, many based outside of Canada, made all kinds of dubious and unfounded claims against the Canadian oil industry and our proposed pipeline. The letter claims that the oil sands are destructive, yet we know that there is a law in place that says all land must be reclaimed. The letter also says the pipeline will leak and that potential oil tanker traffic will cause orca whales to go extinct. We know that just isn't true. And even more egregiously, the letter claims that the pipeline, quote, abuses First Nations. I guess someone forgot to tell them the single biggest employer of First Nations in the country is the oil sands. Now, usually it might fall on us here at The Rebel to lead the campaign against Desjardins, as we see so few other institutions of the right or associated with the oil and gas industry willing to fight back. But thankfully, that's no longer the case, as the Independent Contractors and Businesses Association of BC is once again fighting fire with fire. I caught up with our friend Jordan Bateman to find out how the ICBA is literally putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to Desjardins.
So Desjardins, for some reason, decided to go along with this, announced that they were not going to fund Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain Pipeline, and that they were reassessing all pipeline projects going forward. This was very frustrating and troubling news for us at ICBA. ICBA actually has a large insurance company. We do benefits, pension, retirement benefits for a number of our companies involved. We actually have a couple $1 million worth of business that we've placed with Desjardins. That business relationship is coming to an end over this.
Well, how about that? Now that is the kind of strong stand that has been missing from our Canadian industry associations and advocacy groups. Are you paying attention, Cap? There is, of course, still great concern. If the single largest association of credit unions in the country is so easily convinced to bow to pressure from foreign activist groups, then what about our big banks or other lenders? Could this be a trend that starts making oil and gas investment dollars in this country, scarce as they already are with Trudeau and Notley at the helm, even less likely to land here in Canada? Well, I have to say, sadly, I think this trend might continue. After all, almost all major financial institutions already offer clients investment and RRSP options that are considered green or so-called ethical investments that actively avoid investing in the fossil fuel industry. Bateman and the ICBA agree.
Yeah, we see Desjardins as a beachhead here. We have to stop this. We have to make sure that they realize that, look, either way, there's going to be pressure. We're putting social media pressure on them. We already have had a couple hundred emails flowing in from our supporters and members going into their offices, their CEO. You can go to get2yes.icba.ca. You can send an email directly to the CEO of Desjardins. But if this spreads across the rest of the financial markets in Canada, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people potentially out of work, and you're talking about a loss of about $44 billion a year in investment. To put that into context, the entire provincial budget of British Columbia is about $44 billion. So we need oil and gas in this country.
So just imagine for a minute what Trans Mountain and Kinder Morgan must be thinking when they hear that a financial institution that originally agreed to finance their pipeline, after you jump through all the required regulatory hoops, agreed to hundreds of extra conditions put in place by the feds and the province, and even convinced Justin Trudeau, who won the support of anti-pipeline activists last election, to abandon them and approve the project. And then you even agreed to pay the province of BC a completely unprecedented extra royalty, and now 2 months away from breaking ground, and some foreign activists are trying to collude with Desjardins and other financial institutions to stop the financing of your project? Well, I'd be pretty damn upset. And if I'm a Kinder Morgan executive down in Texas, I am thinking I may never invest another dollar in Canada again if we are continuing to be held hostage by environmentalists and virtue-signaling credit unions like Desjardins. Look, if you're as disappointed and upset as I am about this, head over to yes.icba.ca, click on that Desjardins image, and send a letter to the Desjardins CEO demanding he and his institution stand up for the Canadian energy industry and the proud men and women who work in it. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. That's get2yes.icba.ca. Head over there, sign their petition, and while you're at it, click subscribe on the Rebel Canada YouTube page so you never miss a story like this one.